High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home. Mattingly. Taco makes one. Deep left field. Down the line. That ball is out of here. Out of here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tablesetters, covering all things baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined by my tag partner, Devin. What's going on, man?
What's up, Steve? Happy to be here with you. Welcome, everybody, back to Tablesetters University, the college edition of Tablesetters. We are your professors here, taking you through the week that was in college baseball. And, you know, there's so much college baseball out there. So really, Steve and I are here to kind of highlight a few things each that really have caught our eye, or that we have our eye on in the next few days to come. But I mean, so many exciting things to talk about. Looking through the show run, the notes that we have, like, I'm going to mention it now because it's not planned to be mentioned. I mean, LSU, number 2 in the country, defending champions, just lost to Northeastern, who some people, the casual college fans, are like, who? But Northeastern, I mean, if you follow the CAA at all, which Steve and I do because we keep a close eye on Campbell. I'm a Delaware guy. I know they're no longer in the CAA, but they were for many years. Hofstra's local, Stony Brook is local. We know Northeastern was as dominant as a team as far as in a conference as anyone last year. And this year they've been off to a slow start, but I have a feeling that win over a monster like LSU might propel them kind of to get back to where they were last year. But we're going to talk about as many things as we can in the time that we have with you tonight. So excited to get going.
Yeah, it's just another day in NCAA baseball. It's absolute chaos. If you guys have been following throughout the day-to-day, and when these games get started right now, we have Mississippi State and Southern Miss in an all-time classic right now on top of the 8th. Southern Miss is up 7-6. We're definitely going to keep you guys updated on that game as we go. We're going to be talking a lot about Mississippi State and what Southern Miss has been doing and the playoff atmosphere that's happening out there right now. It is absolutely electric in Hattiesburg right now. But if you guys want to follow the show at Tablesetters Pod on IG and on X, you guys can check us out over there. Join the conversation. Make sure you guys are interacting with us. Everyone in the X machine over there posting some updates and some clips, doing a really good job posting reels and keeping you guys engaged. This is our second official episode under the TSU banner, but we've been covering college baseball for some time now. We've had other guests, as we've mentioned before, but we want to really separate these shows to let you guys marinate in all the news, because if we try to dump it all into one Tablesetters episode, it would be way too much. And really, college baseball at this point deserves all the love. It's been absolutely exciting since it started, and it's really been on Front Street for me. It's been amazing, even through the Olympics and things happening with the other professional sports. College baseball has been absolutely electric compared to everything else going on in sports.
It has been, dude. It even got ESPN's attention the other night. People on Twitter, college baseball fans, were all joking about it because they actually had some kind of alert on ESPN or the app or something along those lines of something that happened. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was the UCLA Mississippi State thriller that we're going to kind of talk about here soon. But when they're out there talking about it, electric things are happening, and honestly, they could cover a lot of time if they paid more attention to it. A lot people would tune in. So let's get going here, man. There's a lot to talk about, so we got to dive into it. You want me to lead off, or you want to lead off this week?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned number 4 in Mississippi State over there doing their thing against Southern Miss, but setting the table for one of the best games of the early college baseball season Sunday at Globe Life Field, with the Bruins outlasting the Bulldogs 8-7, 10 innings. I'll let you take the lead on the Amegy Bank College Baseball Series and Mississippi State handing its first loss of the year. So much exciting stuff going on with UCLA and Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was a fun group of teams there in that little tournament. I mean, UCLA, Mississippi State, probably the cream of the crop, but you got teams like Arizona State that came in real hot. Virginia Tech was there, Texas A&M, who we know can hit the crap out of the ball, on and on and on. So it was a fun one. Came down to these two, and I mean, honestly, you could not have written a better ending to the weekend. Roch Cholowsky comes up with 2 outs. Game's almost over. They're down by 2, and he hits an absolute no-doubter. I believe on the first pitch, if I'm remembering correctly. Just hunting, I guess, to tie the game, and UCLA ends up winning it. I mean, just 2 Titans there, and it just felt like this could be a preview of things to come during the College World Series when there's only a few teams left, maybe only 2. Who knows if they meet again in that situation. But to me, what stands out here is UCLA, with all the confusion, and I think if you look at the top 25 and you look at the first few teams that are just missing the top 25, you could look at like 20 different people's rankings and you might see complete differences in all 20 of those. But the one thing you're going to see that is going to be the same, or at least in my opinion should be, is UCLA as the number one team in the country. They've done nothing but prove that that's who they are. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. And they also have had some clutch moments. Honestly, when you think of the biggest wins in the country this year, whether it be an individual game or a series, or some of the just biggest moments, I think of UCLA multiple times, whether it's Roch Cholowsky's grand slam early on in the first game against TCU that kind of just set the tone for that whole series. They go on and sweep it. Or this game-tying home run with 2 outs in the 9th feels like the biggest moment of the season so far. Or any moment with Will Gasparino, who has just lit the world on fire his first year at UCLA, transferring from Texas. I put this on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of people know this, but maybe some people don't. His father, actually the vice president of baseball operations for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Somehow that just feels unfair because it's the Dodgers. Obviously not actually related, but 10 home runs for Gasparino. I mean, coming into the season, if you're looking at top 100 lists for like this year's MLB draft, you probably don't see Gasparino in any of those top 100s unless it's a college-only list. Then you might see him around the 70, 80 mark, depending on who's you're looking at. I just find it interesting. He's still hitting in the 8th spot, right? And he's got 10 bombs. Do you think they should move him up or just kind of leave well enough alone? Like, just keep on mashing?
I would say leave it alone right now because of everyone's slot. Until something happens, and baseball does have ebbs and flows, and there will be a lull in this offensive surge. We know it at some point. At least we think we do. I would leave everybody in the same spot they are. And some of the offense, I mean, you mentioned it, this win capped the 3-0 weekend for the UCLA in Arlington. It was just highlighting what they're able to do. Mississippi State fell to 11-1 after the game. Really felt much closer to a postseason atmosphere than a game in early March. And I want to give some love to Reed Stallman for Mississippi State. He wound up hitting 3 for 3 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. They had a lot of great offensive there. And the back and forth was great because you mentioned Roch hitting the game-tying home run, and the Bulldogs nearly ended the game in the bottom half of the 9th. And then UCLA seized the momentum in extras. It went back and forth. A wild pitch brought the home the go-ahead run. Aiden Espinoza followed with a 2-run triple into the right center gap. They won up 8-5, but Mississippi State wouldn't go down at all. Sullivan doubled to lead off the bottom of the 10th. Stallman crushed his second home run of the day, pulling the Bulldogs within a run. And the tying run eventually reached the base, but we had Hawk closing the door to secure the victory. So, I mean, an amazing weekend of baseball. Cholowsky winds up getting the game-tying home run and all the things, changing his trajectory. We also had Gasparino continuing his dominant weekend. He helped earn the most outstanding player honors for this tournament. Just an absolute amazing showcase of baseball. And again, if you're not watching this, I don't know what you're waiting for to get into college baseball. This was electric. This was everything was as advertised. And I'm looking forward to seeing these teams maybe have a tilt later in the season.
And as we wax poetic about the series, or about this game in particular, and mainly UCLA, there's nothing more unpredictable than a midweek, right? I mean, sometimes I feel like the early midweeks are the least predictable, but UCLA, as we speak, playing Fullerton, down 3-0, and with that, monster UCLA offense, no home runs tonight. And I got to say, I wonder if all of the noise on Twitter is actually making a difference with ESPN. I've clicked on a few box scores tonight on the ESPN app, and they're actually full of stats and like live game updates. I don't know if they're starting to feel the pressure. If you've been following on Twitter, there's that new app coming out soon. I believe it's Diamond Stats or something like that, where some people have tried to sign up for early access and that stuff. They have a logo now, and all college fans are chomping at the bit. They're doing it. Looks like it's going to be legit. We can't wait. But anyway, what I'm pointing out here is just clicked on it because I know I looked at it before we came on here, and I said to Steve, 3-0 Fullerton. Let's see if that can hold still. It's in the 6th. And the bigger deal is UCLA, if this is correct, I hope the app, I can trust it here, but is being no hit through the 6th inning, or actually in the bottom of the 6th, no out. So Fullerton is out there making an impression. They've thrown 5 different pitchers out there, and that they're just shutting down the Bruins. I mean, they do have 5 walks, so they've got some base runners. But so far, we'll see if UCLA can have more late game heroics. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say they will.
So following along with this, we mentioned the game that's happening right now as we speak. They're in the bottom of the eighth. One of the more important early games in college baseball is unfolding right now in Hattiesburg. Number 4, Mississippi State traveling to Pete Taylor Park Hill Dennis Field to face number 10 Southern Miss. And this matchup carries the feel of something much bigger. Devin and I were texting earlier today about what we wanted to talk about. This doesn't feel like a typical midweek game. Both programs entered this night looking like legitimate Omaha contenders. And really the reality was simple from the start. One very good team was going to leave with a loss. So now we're looking at Mississippi State looking to crawl back in this game. They went down early, 5-0, and now the game's 7-6. This has been back and forth. Just an absolute crazy weekend here, leading into a crazy week. So let's talk about Mississippi State arriving at 11-1, already battle tested against elite competition. We talked about one of the more dramatic games that they're coming off of at this point. You mentioned UCLA losing. Maybe there's some lull because of the emotional high. We see that sometimes with things, and maybe Mississippi State is bonded by the experience of going through that as well. Southern Miss entered tonight just nearly as impressive. We didn't talk about them a lot last week, but the Golden Eagles were 10-1 and riding a 10-game winning streak since dropping the opener UC Santa Barbara. And of course, Jackson Flora was pitching that game. So got to kind of put that note there. Their resume has been strong enough that Southern Miss currently sits number 1 in the nation in RPI, which is a reflection of both its wins and the strength of schedule that has navigated so far. Let's talk a little bit right now about this game that's happening right now. Through the first half of the game, as I mentioned before, Southern Miss taking control of the scoreboard. They built that 5-0 lead in the 5th. Dre Barrett delivered the biggest swing with a 3-run home run. But since we have been speaking, watching it live, I have it above my head right now. Southern Miss trying to close it out. Bottom of the 8th, 7-6. But you know this doesn't feel like it's over. A lot of offense back and forth. The larger story really isn't simply the score that's going on. I think it's really the caliber of the program sharing the field right now. Mississippi State has looked like one of the more complete teams in the country early this season. And Southern Miss has built one of the strongest resume in the sport and continues to prove it belongs in the national conversation. So a top 10 matchup. I understand looking at these two teams out there built to look for Omaha. So really excited to watch this, and we'll keep you guys posted as it continues to go down.
Yeah, I mean, really, Mississippi State, I think we all know they're more than likely, as long as the health is there, going to be a top 5 at the very least, top 10 team in the country. I just feel like they're too good, too well coached. They have everything they need not to be. I think they're going to be hanging around towards the top all year. But Southern Miss is a team I don't want to say is a surprise because, real hardcore baseball fans, college baseball fans know this is a hell of a program. But they have launched themselves into most top 25s, top 10s after the weekend, and for good reason, man. You mentioned the series win over UC Santa Barbara, where the only loss was to Jackson Flora, right? Animal of a pitcher. And that was early season too. And that resume that you kind of alluded to, they have wins over Oregon State, Alabama, just had a series sweep over Louisiana Tech, who is one of the better mid-majors in the country. And we'll see how this game ends up. But the fact that they're just going back and forth with a program like Mississippi State shows that new top 10 ranking is not a joke. It's legitimate. I wanted to highlight Joey Urban, not doing much tonight, but he has won the Sun Belt Player of the Week, I think 2 weeks in a row, definitely 2 of the weeks this year, but it may be 2 weeks in a row now. Coming into tonight, leads the team with 19 hits, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs. He's just a dude, man. I tweeted that out. You watch highlights of this kid, and he's just a ball player. He can do a little bit of everything, and seems like he's going to come up big when they need it. I would say the face of the team. They look like a force to be reckoned with, man. They play the game the right way. If you watch them, you'll see 100% hustle, whether it be trying to take the extra base or just kind of putting that extra little bit of pep in their step to get to a ball that maybe they shouldn't get to. 100% hustle all the time. Just feels like a total team effort night in and night out. Coach Ostrander has them playing the right way. He just got his 100th win the other day, so congrats to him. But yeah, I said this last episode, one of the fun things about college baseball is there's so many teams. So at certain points of the year or certain seasons, you can kind of latch on to a team, even if it's not really your team, or if you're just a college baseball fan and you don't necessarily have one team you follow, you can kind of fall in love with teams different weeks and follow them for the rest of the year. Southern Miss, for me, is starting to feel like that this year, where it's just like previously, I'm not going to say they're not on my radar, but they're certainly not a team that I root for. But they're one of those teams that kind of feels like they're hard not to root for.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Chris Ostrander getting the 100th win, and the milestone was reaching just 137 games, which is the fastest pace in program history. So pretty cool to watch what he's doing over there. Across the dugout for Mississippi State, you got Brian O'Connor over there. He's a college baseball Hall of Famer, winning 917 games in 22 seasons at Virginia before taking over the Bulldogs program and putting his fingerprints on it. This is just a game. Again, it's still going as we speak. We're going to keep you guys up to date. That feels like it's pivotal back and forth. And some games are lost. We mentioned we don't like to use the word upset in any fashion. Of course, these are two heavyweights playing each other, but one loss feels a little bit important here. There's a lot of momentum on the line because it feels like they're on a collision course somewhere down the line where at least they're going to be contending for something big going on in Omaha. So we're going to keep our eye going on there. But you want to mention USC's pitching as well. Talk about the Trojans' perfect start. And the numbers for the first stretch of the season illustrate how dominant this group has been. So they'll let you take the lead. 11 games, 99 innings so far, allowing just 54 hits, 16 earned runs for a collective 1.45 ERA and less than 1 WHIP. I mean, opponents are just struggling to generate any consistent offense against the Trojans and what USC is bringing to the table.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the night, they're one of 3 undefeated teams left. New Mexico already lost, so they're one of 2 now. Texas, I believe, last time I looked like they were going to stay undefeated tonight. USC playing UC Irvine. They were down early, but I think it was 3-2 or something along those lines. So that game is not very deep into it right now, maybe a few innings in. So we can check back before the episode's over. But USC has just gotten everybody's attention, especially on the pitching side. Look no further than this pitching staff. Mason Edwards has thrown 18 innings to the tune of a 0 ERA. Is that good? A 47.7% K rate for him so far. Batters hitting just 0.018, like just a ridiculous number. Big 10 pitcher of the week. Grant Govell, I mean, not to be outdone, 0.47 ERA in 19 innings, just a 3.1% walk rate so far. Batters are also hitting under 100 against him. And he also has a K rate above 40%. And you could keep on going. Those are the 2 dogs I think everyone is going to pay the most attention to. But you have Andrew Johnson's thrown 16 2/3, 1.08 ERA. Gavin Lordson has thrown 9 innings to the tune of a 1 ERA. Their USC coming into tonight, their pitching is ranked first in the country in ERA, second in WHIP, second in hits per 9, 11th in K per 9. And they're now, as a team, ranked in the top 25 in the nation in most polls. So I got to say, I mean, we always talk about what we're looking forward to before the episode's over, and sometimes there's more things than others. This goes into the category of long-term because I know a lot is going to happen between now and when the date I'm looking at. But as you scroll through USC's schedule and you think of their pitching, well, they match up with UCLA, a classic matchup there, no matter what the sport is, USC, UCLA. That's not till the first weekend of April, but you just imagine if this pitching can keep on rolling even close to what they're doing now, and that UCLA offense led by Cholowsky and Will Gasparino can kind of just keep it going, even though they're getting no hit tonight. I just feel like that could be a super fun matchup, and it's a series, so it's not just a one-time meeting. They will meet Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the first weekend of April.
Yeah, and I think looking at just the ability for Andy Stankiewicz, of course, the head coach, to piece together games because everyone's over there with effectiveness, and he's able to get everybody out there and do their things, multiple arms. Their ability to consistently miss bats has been pretty striking. The 132 strikeouts in 99 innings reflect a group that's capable at even a higher ceiling of the swing and miss. And defensively, I wanted to make note of some of the support has been really strong. They've turned 24 double plays, posted a 979 fielding percentage, helping escape some of the jams that they've been in, the few of them, that is. And looking at them, I mean, from the first pitch to the final out, opponents are just hitting barely 150 against USC pitching. It's just unreal to watch. And as we know, we've discussed this multiple times, whether it's college baseball or fantasy baseball or Major League Baseball, early season can sometimes mask some underlying weaknesses of players and teams. But USC, if you look at the profile of this team, as Devin was mentioning, up and down the list, Mason Edwards and Grant Govell and Sax Matson or Diego Velasquez, these guys going down the list, I feel like this is a little bit more sustainable. I mean, the staff is limiting base runners. They're suppressing extra base damage and striking out more than a batter per inning. I think that performance tends to translate beyond this, the opening weeks of the schedule. I'm looking forward to see them take on some really challenging parts of their schedule. Their pitching staff hasn't just supported the Trojans' undefeated start. I mean, I think we can say clearly they've driven it.
Yeah, and interesting enough, I just kind of looked for a quick update on that game against UC Irvine. And it looks like they may have to win in a very different style tonight than they've been used to this year so far. That game's only in the bottom of the third, and it's already been a little back and forth offensively. USC currently up 4-3, so that looks like a fun one between those two teams. We'll see. If USC falls tonight, that means Texas will be the last undefeated. It's funny. I feel like just days ago, 11.7 put something out there with all the undefeateds, and it was like a very full graphic. And just snap your fingers, and we could be down to just one, and at the very most two after tonight.
I know that you don't want to lose any games, but I'll volley this back to you. Do you think there's some pressure that's gone once you lose that first game that you can play a little looser, or is that misstated a little bit?
Oh man, it's tough to say. I think if you're a team that feels like they're maybe on the edge of being a contender this year and kind of has that feel of like we got to win every single game that's within our grasp, maybe that could be true for them, where it's like, all right, we lost a game, takes the edge off a little bit. The world isn't over, right? We can go back to tomorrow. But that's the thing about baseball, whether it be Major League Baseball or college baseball. Obviously, the Major League Baseball season much longer, but a midweek, if you drop a midweek, it's like, all right, we got another game right around the corner. Let's go put that one behind us and go win a series. So I do think midweeks are important. Like some people will try to tell you midweeks aren't important. They don't matter. I don't think that's true, but those weekend series are really going to be, listen, if you talked last week about how Tennessee lost that series at home, right, to Kent State, like that feels rough. But although I'd rather that happen early in the season than late, because you still have time.
Yeah, I think it's something. It's kind of a way to think about things. Maybe that's the message in the locker room if one game gets lost, but it depends on who you lose to and the opponent and how you lose the game and how you're playing. I think it goes back to what we had with Jim Martin on here, talking about how you're playing the game and assessing it, that the good baseball will rise to the top, even if you're losing. By the way, Stony Brook's game was canceled to try to have the game here on Long Island. It's too damn cold and the snow won't leave the ground.
We're getting there, man. That shit's melting pretty quick now. It's going.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about another early breakout worth watching unfolding in Athens, where Georgia catcher Daniel Jackson is beginning to look exactly like what the player that Georgia head coach Wes Johnson believed he could be. A lot of great quotes from Wes Johnson about Daniel Jackson, if you really dig into the player. And he opened the series against Oakland University in the way that games often start at Foley Field with power. I mean, a lot of great stuff. Jackson finished the game 3 for 4, 2 home runs, a walk, and a career high 6 RBIs, driving the ball over the field, delivering, honestly, the kind of performance that stands out. Even when a day when Georgia scored 16 runs, they wanted to score 11 more runs today. Their offense looks really great. And there's been a lot of conversation. Wes Johnson talked about the maturation of the player and him personally watching his growth. And I think really the maturation has always been a key variable in the development of young players, and more specifically this player, Daniel Jackson, because the raw tools were never the question. I think if you look at any of the scouting reports of what he's able to do, the power was always there. I think what Georgia wanted to see was the approach of catching up to the talent. And early in this season, of course, it is still very early. The opening stretch of this year, he's now hitting 375, 9 home runs, and 5 stolen bases, putting him squarely on trajectory that, as Wes Johnson said, he could be a 20 home run, 20 steal guy that looking at that can carry their offense. And what makes this surge even more convincing is how the production's happening. If you look at the series against Oakland, he drove the ball to left field, right field, and center field, really showing that all kinds of fields approach can translate to the quality of pitching. As we know, he's going to face some more quality pitching as the season goes on. And I think he talked a lot about his development in the summer. He played for the Cape Cod League with the Chatham Anglers, and where he had all-star honors. He was facing elite pitching every day. He had a quote saying, quote, going after it every day, playing every day, tons of at-bats, kind of just getting comfortable with myself and refining my approach, especially with 2 strikes. And I think you really could see that during the series. 2-strike approach. He looked comfortable. He recognized that the pitchers, especially the Oakland series, were trying to attack him with the high spin rate breaking balls. Earlier in the game, he grounded into a fielder's choice, and he learned from it. That's the biggest thing. This is a young player that's learning as the season goes on. Really great stuff. And then on the defensive side, behind the plate, he threw out 3 base runners, helping stabilize Georgia's starting pitcher, Joey Valco, who was chaotic in the 3rd inning before settling in for 5 innings and 5 strikeouts. But being able to erase base runners from behind the plate, that is so immensely important, especially for a player that defense goes hand in hand with the offense.
Yeah, and Georgia's one of those teams. I'm glad you put him on the show run today, because again, we have so many choices if we're picking around 3 things each to keep the episode relatively in hand here. Georgia, at least in my world, I think it's different for everybody. I just feel like they've gone under the radar, and this team, maybe it's more so who they've played so far, where we're waiting for that more premier matchup for them. But like this team, man, if you look at the roster, is absolutely full of studs. they did they were one of the best teams as far as success in the transfer portal. And some lists you might look at that rank like who did the best. Some lists might have them as the very best. I mean, they really on the pitching side brought in some absolute studs. You named one of them a minute ago. But Daniel Jackson, I mean, he goes kind of hand in hand with what I just said about it. I feel like they've been a little quiet as far as not themselves, but how they're being covered. 9 home runs for Daniel Jackson feels like the quietest 9 home runs ever. Maybe because he got Will Gasparino over there hitting 10. And then when we're not watching his highlights, you're watching Roch Cholowsky and Justin LeBron go back and forth, even though they don't quite have as many as Daniel Jackson does. So unbelievable. Trey Phelps is another guy we should shout out on that Georgia roster. He's also hitting 465 with 5 of his own home runs. So Georgia's going to be a team I think we probably talk more about, but I'm looking forward to seeing them get some of those bigger matchups as we move through the season.
And we've discussed kind of these transfer players when Jim Martin, as we mentioned, the Stony Brook episode on here with players leaving in the transfer portal. Jake Schaffner is over there making the jump to a high major competition to North Carolina. He transferred over from North Dakota State Bison before joining the Tar Heels, and he had quietly found maybe one of the more impactful moments here. Shortstop over there and joined the club, all the impactful shortstops we're seeing throughout this college baseball season. And Schaffner delivered one of the more complete offensive weeks in the country, went for 11 for 17 in week 3 with 4 doubles, a triple, a home run, and 4 stolen bases. And look at that stat line. You can kind of look at all the dimensions offensively that he's touching: contact, power, speed, and pressure on bases. But the deeper story for him is really the consistency he's shown since arriving in Chapel Hill. So through North Carolina's first 13 games, he struck out just once, a remarkable number in really modern college baseball, just baseball in general, where even disciplined hitters accumulate strikeouts simply through the volume of at-bats. And that contact reliability has earned him a lot of trust in that North Carolina dugout. Schaffner is the latest of a long line of dynamic leadoff hitters, and his presence has immediately provided energy and stability for a team that opened the year 10-1-1. Against Lemoyne, Schaffner again set the tone, finishing 3 for 4 with a home run and 4 RBIs and a 12-2 run rule victory. His biggest swing came in the 6th inning. He lifted a 379-foot home run down the right field line. He wasn't sure if he watched the highlight of it. He wasn't sure if it was going to stay fair. The quote was very interesting. He said, "I looked up, I couldn't see it because the sun was in my way." And the sun has been super bright everywhere in all these games. And I'm looking forward to here in the East Coast if we get some of that sunlight over here. But looking at beyond the individual moments for him, his overall production has been overwhelming. He currently leads UNC with batting average at 467, hits with 21, doubles at 4, triples with 3, total bases at 37, stolen bases with 6, and hit by pitches with 5. I mean, all of that. He's already matched his home run total from last year at this point, suggesting really that the adjustments he's made at this point since transferring are beginning to translate. So really awesome to see a player like that getting the shine. And UNC has their eye on some of these players that are transferring. And from North Dakota State to UNC, Jake Schaffner is someone to watch.
Yeah, man. And this is a little bit of a trend for North Carolina. We just mentioned teams that did well in the portal. I think some of their guys, I mean, you mentioned North Dakota State, and I'm going to mention another guy here that came from a school that maybe, you're not looking at as this big baseball school. But I just want to say before I get to him is there's 2 teams, maybe 3, that when the new top 25 came out, I wasn't sitting there angry about it because, there's reasons certain teams don't maybe advance as up the rankings as quickly as you think they should. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And it's also kind of about where they started too. But there's 2 teams that stood out that I felt like could have been ranked even higher, even though they are ranked pretty high. And to me, that was Florida with the series win over Miami. And I know there was some controversy in that Florida-Miami game, tied late, bases loaded, jam, 2 outs. Miami seemingly gets out of it, but the umpire called a balk, brings the go-ahead run in, and then later Florida hits a bomb to break it open. But it's a whole nother story. But I thought Florida and North Carolina were the 2 teams that I feel like are even better than their ranking, which is pretty high already. I think those teams are going to continue to move up. There are a lot of players on both of those squads that I just feel like are the type of players that lead winning teams. And we'll talk about Florida's guys on another episode, I'm sure, because there's a lot of guys to talk about there. But I just wanted to mention in the sphere of transfers, Eric Paulson from Stony Brook, down the road from both of us. We talked about Eric Paulson with Jim Martin when he was our guest, the head coach of Stony Brook. Paulson was absolutely electric for Stony Brook the last couple of years. John Olerud Player of the Year, which goes to the two-way Player of the Year, right, in the CAA. Or overall, John Olerud Player of the Year. He's been awesome at North Carolina. I think sometimes you see this guy's coming from Stony Brook, he's going to a big school like North Carolina. He might have a little bit of a smaller role or take a little time to adjust. No, this guy's been unbelievable in his short time at North Carolina, hitting 442, 5 home runs, 19 RBIs. I mean,
Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing too, I love to watch the adjustments that are made. It could just be going from program to program. And you mentioned the transfer and new coaches, and this happens in pro baseball too. When you look at some of the new dugouts and they see something in a pitcher, a hitter, an approach. For Schaffner, he was pointing to the subtle mechanical changes that he made, and the jumper production is true. So he said he wanted to work on generating more pull side lift. He just lowered his hands in the stance, allowing him to load more effectively and catch the baseball further out front. And that's a lesson to everybody out there, to just either listen to the coaches and be willing to adjust, because clearly it has worked right now. And it's still early part of the season. We don't want to sit here and say that it's all sunshines and rainbows for him right now as a player, but clearly he took the next jump here to be able to listen to his coaches. And seems like UNC has the ability, with whatever they're doing as far as advanced stats or whatever, to get the best out of the players. You mentioned Paulson, but this is just another notch in their belt to being able to get the best out of their players and recognize talent, even when they're playing for a smaller program.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a big part of the game now, with how big, how much of an impact the transfer portal has had. It's like almost like a whole new skill set of like, all right, let's find, not just the obvious ones, because everyone's going to be competing for them, but let's find some of the diamonds in the rough that maybe are not being quite as looked at as these other big guys.
So finishing up here with our college baseball discussion, Saturday night at Segra Park in Columbia turned into the Michael Sherman show for Clemson. It was a rivalry game against South Carolina. The senior right-hander delivered one of the most efficient pitching performances that I've ever seen. I mean, at least of this entire college baseball season, this was a complete game on just 78 pitches, with 67 of them called strikes, an 86% strike rate, and absolute control of the strike zone from the first inning to the ninth. And the performance was so efficient. As we know, if you're a baseball fan, it's qualified as a Maddox, the term used for a pitcher throws as a complete game, shutout on fewer than 100 pitches, named after, of course, Greg Maddux, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Sherman pitch total even matched the 78 pitches that Maddux used in his complete game for the Braves. You go back to that 1997 game against the Cubs, which makes the stat a little bit more symmetrical for me. And what made the outing stand out wasn't just the strikeout dominance, because it was there. Sherman finished with 4 strikeouts, but that almost undersells the performance, because over 9 innings, he allowed just 1 run on 4 hits, issued 0 walks, and faced only 31 batters the entire night. He simply attacked the zone relentlessly and forced South Carolina to swing early and often. And again, if I'm looking into this, and this is, again, we try to make the comparisons to college baseball and pro baseball. That level of efficiency is so rare in modern college baseball. Complete games themselves are almost uncommon because teams rely heavily on their bullpen depth. We mentioned all the effectiveness of using different arms. And the pitch management, doing it in just 78 pitches against a major rival, pushes that to me into the next stratosphere. Just being able to do that. I think those numbers illustrate why this was so dominant. 67 strikes out of 78 pitches means that hitters were almost never ahead in the account. And you go back and look at it, I would dare say that nobody was ahead in the account. Sherman consistently got ahead. He forced contact. He avoided the one thing that typically inflates pitch counts, which is the free passes. He did not walk a single batter, keeping pressure on South Carolina throughout the game. And this rarely goes unnoticed naturally. You mentioned ESPN getting a little bit more love on college baseball. Monday night, he was recognized with multiple honors, including the ACC Pitcher of the Week and the D1 Baseball and Golden Spikes Player of the Week award. Those awards clearly are meant to recognize the best performance in the country during a given week. And when you combine the pitch count, the strike percentage, and the complete game in this environment against a rival, I mean, it becomes easy to recognize why he's there. I think it reinforces the type of season he's putting together altogether. I mean, this is the one outing you look at. It certainly lowers your ERA. His ERA sits at 0.90 right now. And through 20 innings, he now has 18 strikeouts against just 1 walk. I mean, looking at that strike throwing consistency, really awesome to see. Absolutely dominant. And if you love pitching, man, this was for you.
Oh, yeah. And to do that, especially after the way the series started, which I'll mention in a minute, it makes it even more impressive. I believe I saw somewhere he was named co-pitcher of the week this week, like in all of D1, along with Chris Lavonis, who we covered last week, who made us look super intelligent by spending that time on him last week, because he was lights out last week. And before we talked about him, he was even better this time around. Oh, my God. Just watch the highlights of what he did over the weekend for Wake Forest. But in this, the Clemson, South Carolina stuff, you got to love the rivalry here. South Carolina wins the first game. And let's be honest, a little over the top. little over the top. I get it, rivalry game, but it's the first game of a series. You got to be careful with how much you celebrate. There's still 2 games left, and I think that did come back to bite them. Clemson's coach coming right out after they win the second game, basically saying like, hey, we got another game tomorrow. We don't win. We're not going to celebrate like we won the World Series. Clearly a shot at South Carolina after that. And he clarified a little bit the next day saying that, listen, he's okay with celebrating, just like as long as it's not directed at the other dugout, which I'm kind of with him there. College baseball, the personality is out there. There's lots of big celebrations, lots of screams, but we talk about the psycho closers, right? That's a big thing that college baseball fans look forward to, seeing those guys out there late in the games and just going nuts. But I do agree. It's like, try to keep the celebration and the chest pounding and all that stuff and the yelling like in your own dugout without directing it in the other place. And I would think South Carolina at least learned a little bit of a lesson here. Like, if we are going to celebrate like that, let's make sure we win not just the first game, but let's win the series before we let that happen.
So Southern Miss was able to close the game out, got the win 7-6. So they move on to get a win
all
over
aboard.
Here. So
all aboard the bandwagon. Yeah.
Really awesome to see. Great environment in that. And just watching was able to go down. Like, again, intense baseball for an early part of the season. We're sitting here on March 3rd having these competitive games that feel big, watching here on a Tuesday night, enjoying all of it. I just turned on Grand Canyon in Arizona right now. They're in the top of the 8th. On the ESPN Unlimited app has its flaws for sure, but the accessibility to some of these games is really cool to be able to watch for a baseball sicko that's sitting here enjoying it. But I mean, there's a lot of great stuff happening around there. We've been covering college baseball pretty closely for about 2 years now, but being able to be on here on the platform and have a conversation about college baseball and dedicate the time to it, as I mentioned before in the opening of the show, if we were to sit here and try to bake some of these stories in, there are comparisons and parallels we can make to kind of weave it together with Major League Baseball, but I don't think we'd be doing college baseball justice. It deserves its own platform, and I'm glad it's being recognized by platforms like ESPN and places that a lot of the casual fans are taking note of some of these players. And yeah, it might be the trajectory and the shortened pipeline to get to Major League Baseball, but there's a lot of real great talent here and great programs and emphasis on efficient baseball, and that's what I really love to see.
Yeah, and I think, listen, college baseball fans are very critical of major outlets not covering college baseball enough and like not airing enough games. Like, there should be college baseball on some of these main networks from the very beginning of the season. Like, why do we have to wait until we get to the College World Series to like actually have games on regular TV? You're right. There are tools to find these games. And there's a lot of college baseball fans that take it upon themselves, honestly, to make things more accessible for everybody. We talk about Wheels on YouTube, putting up, those sets of 10 to 15 minute highlights of most of the games. And that's a lifesaver for some people. But a lot to look forward to. Like, I feel like so much has happened already, and really we're just scratching the surface. We always try to list one or two things or one or two series or games or matchups that we're looking forward to in the coming weekend. Last weekend, it was chock full of like popcorn matchups, if you will. This week, maybe not as much as far as like big team against big team, ranked team against ranked team. I'm eyeing the North Carolina-Virginia series. Virginia, I know, not a top 25 team. I believe they actually got shellacked by Charlotte today. So not great for my point here. But, we talked about North Carolina before, and I really want to see them kind of tested to see if I'm correct about feeling like they're maybe should be a little higher ranked than they actually are right now. I just feel like it's a loaded squad. So North Carolina, Virginia, I mean, I know Virginia has had their moments of not looking very good, and then has had moments of looking like, yeah, like we might be able to squeeze in the top 25. Still trying to figure out what that team actually is there. But North Carolina, Virginia is the one I'm looking forward to. And just to give a quick update before I hand it back over to Steve, UCLA, man, still being no hit in the bottom of the 7th. They do have 2 men on. I think Fullerton is just walking the ballpark, but not allowing runs or hits. So that one will be interesting. Fullerton, obviously, long way to go. They still need 9 outs, but it's something to watch.
So if you're listening to us on audio, we're doing a double drop today. So one TSU episode, one typical Tablesetters episode, getting you guys geared up for what's been a pretty eventful spring training. And of course, the World Baseball Classic taking hold. This week, we got some exhibition games and some teams playing for their national teams right now against major league squads. And a lot of things in the headlines. So you guys, if you are listening to this first, because this is the first episode dropping in the audio algorithm, go out to the next episode and check it out. With that being said, if this is the only stop you're at right now and you're going to stay here and maybe you're going to wait until Friday, we're going to be having more conversation about the WBC. Devin and I will be going live after the USA game against Brazil. So we're going to be going live on YouTube, on Twitter, and making sure we're having a conversation about that. We'll have the first couple games of the WBC already in hand, be able to talk about some of the opening games. A lot of things happening from Japan to the USA, a lot of things going down, the different timelines, so you can fill your gap. And it's going to be kicking off pretty soon. So you need some more coverage of it. You can go and check out our episode where we previewed it with Sean Spradling and all the great coverage we had over there, and check out all the other coverage. It seems like the World Baseball Classic is going to take hold, but we're not forgetting about college baseball. You can kind of have your cake and eat it too at this point, where college baseball is going to run simultaneously with the WBC at the same time. And oh yeah, we got spring training going on as well. So a lot of crazy things going on. Baseball is taking hold, man. We are literally counting down the days to opening day for Major League Baseball, but don't lose sight on the road to Omaha right now with NCAA.
And just quickly before we get out of here, I feel like sometimes at the end of the episode, you want to like correct yourself on something you messed up. We need like you remember the old days of PTI when they had Tony Reale as Stat Boy? Yep. Again, aging ourselves a little bit, but that was great because he would basically at the end of the half hour tell them all the things they actually messed up and got wrong to fix it. Nice way to kind of put a bow on the episode. I kind of like twisted myself into a knot before trying to talk about Eric Paulson and the John Olerud Award, which is awarded to the best two-way player. Okay, so he didn't win it as a rookie, as a freshman at Stony Brook, was a finalist for the John Olerud Award, which honors the best two-way player in Division I baseball. He was the only freshman amongst the 10 semifinalists. So it's super impressive still, but didn't actually win the award. So just wanted to correct myself there.
One of our good friends, he's in our fantasy baseball league, Matt, who is he is on the Extra Cooler Show. One of the great, if you guys love pro wrestling, it's a nostalgia show talking about old school wrestling. He has what they call homework. So when they mess things up, they'll go back and check it, and he'll come back the next week with the homework. But what you just did is what they do sometimes. It's like doing the homework on the bus. You're doing it right now, not waiting to get home. So you did the homework on the fly. You got it done. So shout out to Matt and the Extra Cooler Boys. Check out the episodes they're dropping on the road to WrestleMania and stuff. They just did an episode about Mike Tyson on Raw. You guys like old school wrestling. Maybe you guys aged out of pro wrestling, not watching anymore. They are diving deep in all the nostalgia stuff, and check it out. One of my favorite podcasts out there right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Lots happening in the wrestling world. And if you're new to Table Setters, yes, we will every once in a while squeeze a little bit of our wrestling fandom into our episodes.
So again, check us out. Our next episode coming up in just a little bit, and check it out wherever you get your audio, whether it's Spotify or Apple. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and on X at TablesettersPod. Give us our 5-star review. If you're so kind, please do so. It'd mean a lot to us as we get ready for this next season. Let everybody know what you guys think of the show. Send us a message. Send us a message on X. Send us a message on Instagram. Let us know. Let us know what you want to talk about. We're covering college baseball. It could be about anything. Fantasy, one of our Roto Setters episodes. And speaking of that, we'll talk about it on our next episode a little bit further. But shout out to Fantasy Pros. Pretty soon, Devin and I will be ranking some fantasy players on Fantasy Pros. So we were able to link up with all the great people over there. So Devin and I will have our own tab. Table Setters will get some love over there. We're working on ranking not only redraft players, dynasty, and prospects. So 300 players in certain categories. So we're working on it. So if you guys need some help getting ready for your draft, you guys can use Devin or I. You can make us look like geniuses, and we'll help you win some money in your fantasy baseball leagues.
Yeah, or maybe you do the opposite of what we suggest. I don't know if that's your strategy. Everybody's different, but there is something on Fantasy Pros, if you're not familiar, called ECR, with Experts Consensus Rankings. It's really cool tool because you can kind of click on the drop down and you'll see the names of the experts that have ranked. And yes, we're falling into this experts category now. How about that? But you can kind of like, if there's one or two people in that list of experts that you kind of respect their opinion more than everyone else, you could just filter it so you just see their rankings, or you could see everyone's together, like averaging out and how people kind of, the range. Like maybe I had somebody ranked 10 and then someone else had them ranked all the way up in the 30s or something like that. So a really interesting tool, kind of like a different option than, say, ADP, which we also mention all the time. But ECR, a little bit of a different way to kind of look at it and see how people are organized and what kind of order they're in.
Yeah, shout out to the guys at Fantasy Pros doing an excellent job. We're honored to be a part of what they're doing over there. Shout out to Chris Welsh, and he'll be back on here soon talking about fantasy baseball. But we'll be back soon talking all things baseball. Until that time, we'll talk to you after a while. And as always, happy baseball.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.